Alright, howdy y'all. It's time. We are on part 3 of our mini theme park live stream series review. And if you can't tell again from what I'm wearing, today we're going to be going over Dollywood. So, I worked at Dollywood over the summer, specifically at their water park. However, I did get to go on all the rides in the main park, or at least all the coasters. So, we're going to go over both the coasters as well as my overall experience with the park itself. Because I have a few things to say about the park aside from the coasters. However, let's jump right in. I believe we should start with a quick little tier list. So I have the little tier list ready here. And it's not a long one. There's only 7 rides here. And I've been on all of them, so there aren't any I can put in a did not ride pile. And we're going to start in the order they appear here. So let's start with Thunderhead. So Thunderhead is the classic old wooden coaster, the Woody of the park. And this one is a bit older. However, I like older wooden coasters. So if you saw my last video about Busch Gardens, you'd know I'm a fan of the old Gwazi before they tore it down. Of course, I love Iron Gwazi now, but I still love rickety wooden coasters that rough me up. And this one, the restraints aren't too bad, and it's just you getting thrown everywhere. And the best part is, it's kind of a long wooden coaster. So, you get a good ride, good bang for your buck. And best of all, it usually has one of the shortest rides in the park, or the shortest lines, I would say. Usually, I never waited more than 5 minutes. It was almost always walk-on every time I rode it, which was great. So, I think it's a great overall coaster for me to start with, at least, and they're probably one of the most underrated coasters in the park. So I'm going to go over to my tier list here. I think I'm going to go ahead and put Thunderhead in my A tier. Now, a lot of other people would put it lower, but again, I'm a big fan of the old wooden ones. So next up is, I believe, Dragonfly? Yes, Dragonfly. So this design, I was excited because it looked like a swinging coaster where you swing from side to side. However, it's not. It's a family coaster. So they locked the swinging mechanism. So it's built in there to where normally it would let you swing, but this one does not. So that was a bit of a disappointment. It's in their new Wildwood Grove section of the park. And they just had a really big announcement for that section. We'll get to that at the end. We'll get to that at the end of the tier list. But the Dragonfly itself is just such a weird coaster. It's kind of short, but for a family coaster, it's surprisingly fast, or at least it feels fast. Like, you zoom through that thing. And it's pretty smooth, but not smooth enough to where it's boring, so you enjoy it. It's just, another weird part is, you can only run one train on it, because there's not really any brakes, or mid-brake runs, I don't think. Well, there may be 1 or 2. But the coaster just swings straight into the station, full speed. There is no pre-station brake run. Can't speak today. There is no pre-station brake run, which is weird to me. So you are waiting, and then you're waiting for the one train to go around in line, and then it just comes zooming in around a corner into the station and just stops abruptly. Now, that's not necessary. I just find it more weird than bad, honestly. So, aside from that, since it is a family coaster, you'd think I'd rate it lower, but it's actually not terrible. So I think I'm going to put this one, looking at the rest we have on the list. I may move some of these around, but I'm going to put this in maybe high C, because there's no theming for it. If it had more theming, because neither of these had theming, but I'd prefer Thunderhead a lot more. But Dollywood does like their theming, and we'll get to that, especially, right now. So, next coaster to go over, Lightning Rod, L-Rod. So, funny story with this, I had a roommate during my internship this summer there, even though I worked at the water park. I had a roommate, pardon the noise, I had a roommate that worked on Lightning Rod. So, that was pretty cool, and, he told me a lot about it, a lot of things I can't say. So, well, no, he didn't tell me anything. So, But this ride is also a Rocky Mountain. That's an RMC, I believe. Same company that made Iron Gwazi, I think. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I think it's RMC. And it's a launch coaster. Pardon that again. But, this is a weird launch coaster, because it launches you up the lift hill. It's not a slow lift hill. You just zoom up the lift hill. Weirdest part is it slows down a lot near the top. It doesn't boost you any at the top, so it ends up being kind of a regular lift hill at the top, but it zooms you up the first half of it, which is weird. So, Jeez, what's wrong with him? I hope he's okay. Anyways, so aside from that, it's a very fast coaster with a lot of airtime. And I enjoy it. It's one of my favorite rides in the park, or at least one of my favorite coasters. So, maybe not my favorite ride, though. I will say, yeah, it's one of my favorites. It has decent theming, you know, being you testing out a 1950s hot rod, because that's sort of the time period they're going for. It's right next to their little, like, Autopia section of the park right here with their little cars you can drive around. And, theming's solid. The ride's solid. Now, where do I want to put it? That's the question. Their single ride, I forgot to say, their single rider line gets you on pretty fast, even if there is a line, so that is a plus. I think I may put it in S tier, slightly above Thunderhead, but that's just due to personal preference. Now let's move on to the next one, which is Fire Chaser, or Fire Chaser Express. This one's another family coaster, but it's unique. It's a launching coaster, but it does go backwards. But the best part is, it blasts you out of the station like a shotgun. You launch out of this little fire station here. Going forward, there's like a switch track that loads another train into it from the back first, like a muzzle loader. You have a muzzle loading station that blasts the train out. And you go along the course of the train, through the scenery, because again, the theming is you're a volunteer firefighter. There are actually 2 firefighter rides. In fact, one of them isn't even on this tier list because it's more of a dark ride than a coaster, but I'll touch on that later. But the thing is, this coaster, halfway through the ride, you go into this like fireworks stand, and the guy there is like paranoid that it's all going to blow up, and of course it all blows up and all the fireworks start blowing up, and a big one like points to you, and then you zoom backwards out of it, and then the rest of the ride's going backwards. So it's not a short coaster. It's decent. It's kind of slower, but again, it's a family coaster. What are you gonna do? And overall, the theming elevates it. So it would be a lot more boring without the theming. And they have fire effects in like the fireworks stand and stuff. So it's pretty good. And it's cool because like the gas station that the fireworks stand is attached to is a cleverly disguised like place to work on the trains and a place to store the trains. So the actual entrance to this gas station is just a place for the technicians to go in and work on the trains. So I think that was a nice, cool little way to hide it with the theming touches. So, oh, not letting me grab. Anyway, let's go back and rank this one. With the theming, it puts it above Dragonfly. Although I think I'll put it solid B tier. I would do it if it had a short wait. Although it has a long wait some of the time. So let's see what's next. Tennessee Tornado. This is an old arrow. And with old arrows, I'm not the biggest fan of them. This one's rough, but it's weird. I usually like rough coasters, but this one just doesn't hit the same. It's really shown its age. And I've heard some rumors that it may not be around for too much longer, but I don't know how true those are. However, the ride itself is just kind of short. It has a little section where you go through a small tunnel, which is neat, like on the side of the mountain. And it has some okay inversions, but it's kind of just rough and unpleasant. And if anything, just unmemorable. Like, you'll enjoy it while you're on it, but then you forget you even rode it, like, once you got off of it. It just generic. And they don't even have too much theming. Like, the theming that is there is you are like going out of a barn that was hit by a mine that was hit by a tornado. Like half the rides here are themed either around firefighting or mines, which makes sense because it's in the Tennessee mountains. But this one just is half-hearted with the theming it does have. Like there's some props scattered around that look like they were blown around in a tornado, but like there's besides that, that's all really the theming there is for this ride, which is kind of disappointing. And the coaster itself doesn't really carry the ride. So if I go back here, that's probably gonna be D tier. I don't think it's worth riding more than once. Just get the credit and then get out of there. Now we will head off to the next one. Mystery Mine. I will say, Mystery Mine is one of my favorites in the park. Probably my favorite coaster, barely beating out Lightning Rod, just because this theming is so good. And it's just, they put so much heart and soul into this one. This is a Eurofighter. That is the name of the type of coaster. So it's a smaller train, smaller trains, and it's meant to have a lot tighter turns at slower speeds to where you can have it just go like this all over the place and just have all these weird momentum-based inversions that don't need as much speed because the trains are shorter. So the ride itself, they fit a lot of it into an indoor portion where it's, they have the theming because it's themed around an old mine. And they have music playing outside. The music is one of the most memorable parts. Like this whole song they have, you can look it up. It's like "Don't Whistle in the Mystery Mine" or something like that, and it's pretty memorable. It has good lyrics. It's an earworm. And then even once you get on the ride itself, as soon as it plunges down, because like you out of the station, you plunge down into this mine section, and immediately it's the cart just starts slowly turning in time with the music, and you hear a bunch of people humming or like singing this little song, and it's like in the background, just a bunch of humming. It's like bum 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 or something like that. But it's so catchy, and it got stuck in my ear the whole summer, every time I went to the park. And I don't know why. And I tried looking for it on YouTube, like that little track, but I could only find like the one that plays outside. I can't find the little section of the song that plays inside, like once you're on the ride. So eventually you go up a lift hill, you do some weird maneuvers outside. They even had an old section of track where it did a 90-degree like U-turn like that, but they had to get rid of that because it was like too rough or something. So they left the old track there as like a little fake out. Or at least maybe they were going to make it more of a fake out, but they left the old track and they had a different element instead, which I think is cool that they just left the old part. And then you go inside and then like you go up the big lift hill that all Eurofighters have, where it's up like this and then down like that. But at the top, like they have a screen. You look up 90 degrees because it goes up 90 degrees on the lift hill, and then you see the screen in the ceiling where it shows like the whole place you're traveling up is on fire, and then it starts collapsing in on you, and everything goes dark, and then they have like a big burst of flame and explosives and stuff, and it goes down, and they have like a really orchestral version of the theme, like a "You're in Danger" sort of thing. It works really well together, and then you go through a bunch of really cool inversions, especially at the end, where you go upside down for a portion of the straight track, and then it just rights itself, going like this, like a 180 down. So of course I don't know all the actual names for these inversions and elements, but whatever. I'm not a huge coaster nerd, so it's just really enjoyable. It's dumb and it's silly, and I love it. So if I go and rank it, I'm gonna put it. Do I want to put it above Lightning Rod? I'll put it right below Lightning Rod in S tier. Because Lightning Rod just has better airtime and thrills, but this one has heart and soul. Which, honestly, Dollywood as a park itself has a lot of heart and soul. But I'll get to that. Last coaster is Wild Eagle. This one never has much of a line. And honestly, it's a B&M. It's a B&M flying coaster. It's the first flying coaster I've ridden on. But I find it really similar to SheiKra. If you've been on SheiKra at Busch Gardens Tampa, it's very similar to this in terms of like the general feel of the ride. It's kind of short. It's based more on swooping motions, like an eagle. And SheiKra was kind of like that too, because I think that was based on like a falcon or something. But yeah, there's like surprisingly forgettable to me though, because I grew up with coasters like this, like inversion-based, like swooping stuff. I was so used to Shaker and other coasters like it. Wild Eagle just like I don't know, faded away. It's almost too smooth to where like the ride. I don't know how a ride can be too smooth, but it gets a little boring, honestly. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think it's kind of overrated, honestly. So I'm gonna put it right above Dragonflyer, but it's kind of close. You think that's weird since Dragonfly is a family coaster, but that one pleasantly surprised me. This one just is a little disappointing to me. So I think that's where I'm gonna leave the tier list. I think that looks good. And I will say though, with Dragonflyer, there will be a new coaster next to it because Dollywood just announced their new coaster called Big Bear Mountain. And this is going to be massive. This is the Wildwood Row section they opened up before. You can see a little bit of Thunderhead right here. Here's Dragonflyer. And this is the new coaster they're going to be starting to build. And it's going to be the longest one in the park. This to me looks like their Cheetah Hunt. Just with, yeah, this looks like, this Big Bear Mountain is to Dollywood as Cheetah Hunt was to Busch Gardens, Tampa. So it looks like it's launch based. It's a long coaster that's an out and back sort of style coaster. A lot like I think, and they're advertising it a lot similarly to Cheetah Hunt, based off of animals. So I kind of pulled that comparison out of my ass. I didn't even plan that at all. That just came to my mind right now. But honestly, I stand by that. That's what this reminds me of. I think it'll be a cool project. I can't wait to use some of my comp passes that I have from working there to go back to Dollywood once it opens. Well, depends on when it opens. This may be a long time away from us, but I'm kind of excited for it. However, let's head back here. If you looked in the thumbnail of this video, I don't know if I changed it or not later on, but one of my favorite rides in the park is not a coaster. It's the ride this park was originally built around when it was still Rebel Railroad and then Silver Dollar City before Dollywood, which is the Dollywood Express. And honestly, like a lot of parks have trains that go through them. Like Busch Gardens has a train. The Six Flags has a train, although they didn't use it. We'll get to use Six Flags, but the train here is amazing. It's one of the largest, like the ones there are like look like purpose-built, micro or smaller scale theme park trains, either coal or gas fired, or not coal, sorry, oil or gas fired. But Dollywood is an actual authentic World War II era, two of them, two coal fired, 240 or something? I don't know. I forgot the wheel arrangement, but like authentic coal fired locomotives, and they billow soot and smoke, not steam. Like they just straight up billow soot out of their stacks. So you have to be wearing glasses. If you don't wear glasses, you may get cinders in your eyes. And when you ride, you do get cinders on your clothes. And to some people that's annoying, but that's amazing to me because I was a little bit of a train nerd growing up as a kid, so I don't know. A part of that still remains dormant within me, and that got activated. I was like a kid in a candy store back then, so when I was riding that, and I rode it a decent amount of times. And when they let the whistle roar, best part of that is it's a really powerful whistle they have. And I lived in a dorm that is just like in the Dollywood property when I was working there. And from the dorm, I had Lightning Rod, that coaster right outside of my window, which was really cool. Like I could see the people going on Lightning Rod from my window there, but I could also hear in the background like the gentle, like softer version of the train horn or the whistle from in the distance. Now, if you're in the park, it's pretty loud, but for me, who was further away, that was really cool. Like just hearing a train whistle every so now and then when I was, off of work. But I mean, that's what this park was built around, is the Dollywood Express, and it lives up to standard. They tell a lot of trivia on it. They have some songs and stuff. It's just classic. So one of the main draws to the park, and I really enjoy it. So Aside from that, another thing with Dollywood that I enjoy is because they take advantage of it being in the Tennessee mountains. They chose it there because, Dollywood was, or sorry, Dolly herself was, raised up in Sevierville, which is just north of Pigeon Forge, where Dollywood is. So, I mean, the park itself is beautiful. It's up in the mountains. There's like mountainous terrain and scenery everywhere. They have a really good landscaping, flowers everywhere. They put a lot of attention into keeping the park clean and just making sure it looks amazing. So the park is great with scenery. One of the most beautiful parks I've been to. And another part is they focus on crafts there. There's an entire part of the park called Craftsman Alley. And in that section, what they do is they bring in all these craftsmen and have them in house where they do all this stuff in front of you and they let guests like try these things. Like they have a blacksmith where you can make like metal stuff for your kitchen and things like that. And all these products they make in there. They have like wood carvings and like wood laser, or not laser, but like burn etching, things like that. They have I think glass blowing. They have a glass blowing place. Just all these handmade crafts in there, and apparently they also have the North America's largest eagle preservation area. They have like a show with all these birds of prey and things like that that I went to, where they have all these owls and other birds of prey, but they have wild eagles as well. Literally, they have a coaster next to it named Wild Eagle. But this massive eagle sanctuary, I didn't even notice it before until I'm like, oh, why is there all netting there? And then I look closer, there's just bald eagles everywhere in there. Just tons of bald eagles. So it's insane like how much care and like small things they put into this park. It's full of all these tiny details. And I think that's one of the park's strengths. You can come there and enjoy yourself so much. They have so much focus on food, events, music, performances. I didn't do any of the performances, and some of them aren't going right now, but once they get back into full swing, they're known for all these performances, all these bands, all these local groups that come in, like performers, country music, and even stage shows. And that's a whole facet of the park I didn't even get to experience. So it's if you don't like coasters, you will still love Dollywood. Like the coasters are great, but unlike some of the other parks I went to where it's just the coasters that are good, this park is truly, a family park that has something for everyone. So, and that's just not me being a former employee saying that. I'd still have the same opinion even if I hadn't worked there. So, I really enjoyed it. But only other thing I will say though is where I worked was Splash Country, which is their water park. And it's a kind of small water park. There are two water parks in Pigeon Forge, Splash Country and one called Soaky Mountain. Soaky Mountain is the thrill water park. Soaky Mountain basically is a concrete pad full of slides and some pools. So they have more slides than we do, and they basically cut the top of a mountain and built everything on top of there, but there's no trees around it. It doesn't look pretty. It's a concrete jungle with a ton of slides. That's it. And they have 3 bars there, so I don't know how good bars and water park slides are together, so I don't know how many times they have to have security incidents, but I will say, working at Dollywood, Splash Country, we don't have as many rides as we do. They have better rides, but we actually have good atmosphere. Like, again, Dollywood Splash Country in the middle of the mountains around it, so where you actually have mountains and trees all around you. You go up at the top of the water slides and you can see all this beautiful scenery instead of just like the main drag or whatever with the other park. I'm not saying we're better because there's strengths and weaknesses about both parks or both water parks, but we have a lot more of a family focus, no alcohol in the park, obviously, and it's a bit smaller. Splash Country is a small water park, but it packs a lot in the space it does have. And the slides we have there, some of them are shorter than others, but we do have a water coaster. It wasn't working for a lot of the time I was working there. It was down for some maintenance issue, but I really do like water coasters. Soaky Mountain has one too, but honestly, both of those water parks were pretty good. and I do slightly prefer Splash Country just because of the good memories I made there and the sort of atmosphere. Because again, it's a lot more of a friendlier atmosphere. So, and honestly, that's how I can describe Dollywood in general. Just really family friendly, good fun, good music, good food, atmosphere, 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 atmosphere. That is their focus. And you will just enjoy being there and observing things happening around you rather than just running from ride to ride. Because going to some other parks that I'm going to be reviewing soon, I just felt like I was hopping from ride to ride. Even Carowinds felt like that. But this one, no, you enjoy traveling all around the park. It's a lot of walking in the park because the park's laid out like a weird triangle, but there's always stuff to see and there's always stuff to look at and do. So even I forgot to mention though as well, there was another indoor coaster that was like the earliest coaster in the park. It's not even a coaster really. It has like one little drop in it, but mainly it's a coaster dark ride called shoot, what was it called? It was a sister coaster to one in Silver Dollar City called Fire in the Hole, but this one was called Blazing Fury. That's what it was. And it's this cheesy, really old, creepy animatronic looking another dark ride about like firefighters and going around stopping fires. It has a cool like bridge scene where a burning bridge you're crossing collapses under you, but you get to see it beforehand before going into the bridge. And they packed all this and all these water features into this indoor ride where it looks like you're actually in like this valley with this burning bridge next to you, but with all this waterfall below you, and it looks really good. But the ride itself has aged a bit, but it's the sort of thing where it's so cheesy, if anyone touches it, they will riot. So it's old, but it's classic. So even they're not as good indoor coaster ride there, it still has charm. Everything in Dollywood oozes charm, except for Tennessee Tornado. But yeah, so if you want charm, Dollywood's the park for you. And I don't know which park I'll be doing next in the series. You'll see it if it's in the playlist. So until then, you all have a great